right, everybody, good morning. It is Friday. That's right, it's the 4th of September, 2020. And this is WLTH AM 1370. Welcome to another edition of the Gary Common Council Show, where I get the opportunity to sit down with members of Gary's esteemed Common Council and talk about issues that are taking place in the city, as well as take phone calls from residents in the various districts and really hear about cool stuff that's being discussed among our top legislators. With that being said, I'm not going to waste any more time. They're sitting here chomping at the bit, and I want to get right to it. Of course, we've got our esteemed cast. I always start with the ladies. It's just more fun that way. And of course, we've got Ms. Ty Atkins from the 4th District, and of course, Mr. Ron Brewer, and then the man sitting in the middle, my council person.
Hey.
Man, Will Garland.
Good morning.
Good morning, my friends. What's going on with everybody? First of all, I want to say happy Friday. We're getting ready to get into the weekend. It is official into summer. Can you believe it?
Can't believe it.
No.
And I'm just holding on to all the sun we have left.
Yeah. I mean, you can just tell it's going to be a great weekend. I know everybody's going to be out and about. I've been seeing it going on. I've been running into you out in the streets.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. And Ty, I've been watching you obviously online, and some of the things been going on out in your thing. And then you and Will had a little thing that you all did together, didn't you, about a week or so ago?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I watched it.
Yeah.
Yes, and Councilwoman Atkins deserves 99.9%.
Yeah, because you did absolutely nothing.
I have pulled some envelopes and sent out a mailer, but it was certainly, I want to, first, good morning, Gary, and we're excited to be on and talk about some of the exciting things the council has been up to.
Yeah.
But I did want to, following up on your comment, to thank Councilwoman Atkins for her leadership.
Yeah.
We share Emerson, and it's so important that Emerson not be overlooked in that sharing.
Right.
It's easy to say, oh, that's just part of my district. When a neighborhood is split. So it was her idea to come together, 1st and 4th districts, to do an event at the Art House where the census folks were there, the Calumet Township Trustee's Office, Northwest Indiana Family Services, MVH Partners, a new developer that's doing Broadway Lofts, and several other community folks were there just to provide resources and let people know that there are good things happening across the city, and we want to be present as much as we can. And so it was a wonderful event.
It was. She got a lot more selfies out of it than you did. I mean, for obvious reasons, but I'm just saying.
Hey, that's right.
I just like to document, some of the feedback we get is that you all don't do anything, so hey, we got documentation. But no, I don't want to take all the credit. It definitely was an effort combined, and I do want to thank our fellow colleague at large, Councilman Brewer, who also supported that event as well. And then Trustee Kimberly Robinson, so her entity was there. They are nested in the heart of the Emerson area. So having them to be a part of that initiative was great as well. So, same thing to echo my colleague. We wanted to make sure that we were bringing insight to those services and initiatives that are already nested in the Emerson area. And then we also jumped off a dumpster day initiative for both the 4th and 1st district in that area that commenced, I think, the week following on the 27th. So great effort, and we're going to keep moving and keep being engaged within the community.
There you go. And let's go over to the man who just probably was out fixing or cleaning something. What's going on, Mr. Brewer?
Good morning, Jeff, and good morning to the listening audience. It's good to be here this morning with my colleagues also. Like I say, I attended that event. I thought it was a great event. To see the two council people that share a district come together with a shared community that comes together and puts something on for the effort of the great community. Gotta say, Councilwoman Atkins has been very active with her district council people. Her 3rd district councilwoman, Mary Brown.
Wasn't Linda Barnes out there and stuff?
Collaboration. Collaboration is our motto.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Well, we're going to get in. I know there are a number of things you all want to talk about. Let's just kind of get off and start with kind of the soup du jour, as it were. There was a big vote that took place this Tuesday. Obviously, I've been talking with the administration about it. They have a position. You all, of course, successfully, with a 6-2 vote, were able to repeal the repeal of it, or stop the repeal of it, and that is, of course, the CBA. I want to start with you, Will, and then I want to get all of you all's opinion, because I think we're all on the same page here. It's just a matter of semantics in the way we're getting there. So I'll start with you, Will. What are your thoughts about the CBA, or at least the administration's perceivement of it?
I think it's an unnecessary fight. The Community Benefits Agreement was a joint effort with the community. Many, not all, of the folks who are part of that group are in the first district, but they're throughout the city and region, who bring a variety of backgrounds to the topic, from labor studies to folks who have been advocates for years around employment and local hiring and making sure that the community actually benefits from development.
Yeah.
So from philosophically, the idea makes total sense. It's not every city in America has a community benefits agreement, but most cities don't have the challenges we have in terms of benefiting from development.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important that we put that in place. Bill Clinton in the 90s, when we were dealing with affirmative action, and it was very controversial, he had a nice little phrase, and it's the same one I use for this. It is, mend it, don't end it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've done all this great work. There's no need to end it. Make the adjustments, make the changes. Councilwoman Atkins, at our Planning and Development Committee, which Councilman Brewer chairs, did a wonderful presentation. I guess that was a week and a half ago, at the committee meeting. And anybody should go and view that, because it was an exhaustive, orderly presentation about the changes proposed by both Councilman Lay as well as the administration around the structure, as well as some of the substantive questions of what we are asking of developers and of what particular developments would qualify to be under the CBA. So it is a good thing.
Yeah.
It does need some changes to it, and that's what we're prepared to do. And I'm so happy that most of my colleagues joined me, and all of us who are here today, in voting against a repeal.
Now, what do you say to the administration's position where, listen, we're on the same page, we're not against it, but when Gary had a perception of not really being a business-friendly community, we're coming in here, we're trying to change that. We don't necessarily need any hard and fast type of settings in here where we got the numbers of, let's say, $15.50. We've got to give 20% here. Where we should be allowed to have the flexibility to treat each negotiation as its own entity rather than having this blanket approach. And, you also heard the argument that when it comes down to putting people to work, the reality is we're just not there yet. We don't have the vocation. We don't have the electricians. We don't have the plumbers. We don't have those people in place yet. Now, sure, we want to go out here and develop it. We want to get out here, get more people into these trades, but we don't have that yet. So why put that hard and fast into the negotiations?
Well, number one, the community benefits agreement as it stands allows flexibility. So if a developer is not able to meet certain parts of it, the council has the ability to waive certain aspects of it. That's number one. Number two, it would have been totally irresponsible to repeal an ordinance of that magnitude with no replacement. That means nothing would have happened. And thirdly, if you watch the council meeting, not this one, but both this one and the one prior to, the developer said he was willing to do the demands of the CBA. Here's the larger narrative, and then I'll shut up and let my colleagues talk.
Because I want to get tired.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in her district.
Yeah.
But I just want to quickly say, we undervalue the opportunity that we present to developers. You cannot buy real estate this cheaply, this connected to road, rail, air, water, and the second, third largest city in the country. You can't do that. You can't buy properties this low and pay these taxes that are so low anywhere. So, and they have contiguous land, right, that you can actually group together to do major developments and to even talk about a phase 2 and phase 3. Most cities don't have that much vacant land available. So I think we undervalue the opportunity we present by making it seem as though we're doing the developer a favor by allowing them to come here. No, that developer is probably going to make anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million just on his developer fee. Mm-hmm. So let's not act like asking him or whoever the developer is to give, $50,000 or $100,000 toward training workers, toward doing community benefits, repairing the parks, giving back, hiring locally. We already have ordinances that ask for that. This is doubling down on it, right? So what we're asking for is not a lot. And again, we're going to make some changes to it that need to be made. But in principle, it's not a bad thing.
All right, let me go to you, Ty, because you did make a great presentation, and this is kind of in your wheelhouse to a certain degree. Go ahead and kind of explain your position.
Yeah, as in terms of the benefit from a developer standpoint, I can't even speak eloquently as William did, but I echo everything. I think the variances, so they're saying that we might not have some of the vocation and skilled workers that are necessary for these particular opportunities, but let's get there, right? And the purpose of the CBA is to implement an instrument for us to obtain funding to get there.
Yeah.
So we can utilize that particular revenue for, increasing vocation, supporting the career center, anything that is deemed in that area of interest, right? I also think that the fact that the administration took the time to propose amended changes to CPO 2020-39 shows that they were interested in it, right? And so if there was an initial step on that part, we can continue to forge forward.
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of conversation in terms of, there's no other CBA in the state of Indiana. Well, who said that Gary couldn't set the tone for being innovators in that regard? The asset that we do have is not a lot, but it's the land. So as, again, Councilman Godwin stated, we have to do and serve the people of this city, the interest of protecting those assets that we do have and being able to capitalize on that going forward. Broadway Lost is just one project. And our position here is to set the tone for long-term success within the city. So I'm not even thinking in terms of, okay, on Broadway Lofts, the tax abatement was $600K. I'm not even thinking that. I'm thinking, what can we do to make sure that we're making the recommended changes so that when we're long gone and we have made room for the new leadership, that they have something in place to ensure that they're successful. And I think that that's key. I agree in terms of making sure that we have, that we amend and do not end, right? And so that is the work. I also, I am a Gary native, but I haven't been back into the city long enough to know historically. But I think that this is the first time that we have a tool that all particular parts of interested stakeholders for the city can come together. You have city officials, you have the legislative body, you have the executive branch as well. You have interested community partners, as well as your state legislators who also initially supported this. So this is something that we could utilize to say, look, this is the one time that all elements and interested stakeholders for the city of Gary came together and worked to provide us an ample solution to support community benefits for the city.
Well said. Well said. Let's go to you, Ron. You're the longest tenured guy sitting up here, and you remember about Gary's and its reputation. That it was not a business-friendly place, and you know how hard that was to get things done for the previous administrations and things like that. So, what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously, I know you're on board, but tell me your thoughts. As somebody who's been here, you've heard the conversations.
Absolutely, and that's why it's so important that we get this right.
Yeah,
it is needed. We definitely see it. We talk about projects inside the city. We talk about how we give funding for these projects, and we don't get too much in return for the facility itself. Now, we get the benefits down the line, but we talking about actually seeing our people take part in building, restoring, whatever it is. We just want to give our people a fair shot at it. I echo both of these sentiments here, and what Councilman Atkins had just said about the amendment portion there coming from the administration, putting forth an effort. I think that was strong from them to do it. And it wasn't just one or two words that were changed here. At that last committee meeting, Councilwoman Atkins had a full drawn out outline of everything. I mean, she went from the definitions all the way down. And it was time consuming. We took almost 3 hours going through that.
You said she did a lot of homework?
A lot of homework, but it was worth it. And I think we got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Everyone was really paying attention. I don't think it was a waste of time or things of that nature. We made progress.
Yeah.
Now, the community benefits group is not going to get everything they want. The administration's not going to get everything they want. But we should meet somewhere down the middle where it benefits the city and the developer that's come in also too. But I don't think any developer feel like they can just come to any city and don't have to do anything.
Of course not.
I mean, everybody know I'm a contractor myself. There's certain things I have to give and take myself if I want to get a job. And there's certain things that whoever I'm doing work for, they're expecting for me to do, or if we allow you to do this, can you throw in this, or can you throw in that? I get asked those same questions, and if I want the job good enough, bad enough, I'm going to do just that. So I think we at that point. Our plan is now to go on Tuesday with a plan ourselves. This is our amendment. Let's work from here. So this is our happy medium. Now let's work out the kinks. Where can we meet at a happy medium going forward? And where it will benefit both sides.
All right, we're talking with Gary Kamikaze. You wanted to add something about your eyes light up.
I was just going to say that I don't want it to be lost on the public that, it's not like we're holding, hostage any developer that comes here. It is the community benefits agreement is triggered when a developer is asking us to give them a tax abatement, right? That means they are not paying property taxes.
Right.
In this case, it's 10 years. It kind of starts at, I think, 100%, works its way down to 10% is tiered. But, here's another concern with this, which is why I voted against the tax abatement. I abstained during the first vote on it, and I voted against it Tuesday. And my reason, which I explained then, and I'll say quickly now. We have affordable housing, we have low-income housing, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's spread throughout the city. My concern is that we have too much of it.
I agree.
And we have it in concentrated areas. You don't have to be a sociologist. You don't have to be at the Department of Housing and Urban Development to understand the long-standing consequences of concentrated poverty. My main beef with this development, not because it's affordable housing, but at the very least, your retail tenant, 4,000 square feet of ground level retail, is going to be a WIC office.
A WIC office, I know.
And a nonprofit.
Yeah.
What that means, not only does that concentrate poverty, because...
And do you also hate it being right here in the center of Gary?
It's in the center of your business district, what should be your central business district. Not only that, we have our Calumet Township Trustee Office. I love Kevin Robinson. I love the work they do.
But it's right around.
But that's a poverty supporting program.
Yeah.
Then you have the headquarters for the Housing Authority, where you get your vouchers. That's another program of that same kind. Then you have the Unemployment Office, right? Then you go to 504 Broadway, you have your Work One office. So what you're creating is a poverty complex.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is there's nothing wrong with anti-poverty programming, but we need to think about where we put it and how it is distributed. Because that retail location should have been a grocery store, a restaurant, a nice convenience store, even a professional services office, a law office, an accounting firm, something that will generate commerce, right? And have diversity of incomes at the table. The other consequence to this is this. When you put a nonprofit inside of a building, you are lowering the amount of property taxes that you're going to pay because nonprofits don't pay property taxes.
Right.
So sure, they're going to pay property taxes on the residential portion, but even that will probably be discounted because it's affordable. But now you're also talking about the whole retail space being nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
So my thing is, even once they do start paying taxes, or even when they start paying a certain percentage of it, we're going to get even less. Now I understand it's in a TIF district and there's other complicated narratives around this, but we have to demand more. There was, if we had said, look, you're not going to get this $697,000 tax abatement if you can't find a real retail or commercial tenant, trust me, they would have found one.
Yeah.
But the pressure was not put on them. And secondly, I want to be clear because there's been folks saying stuff on social media and even some journalists writing certain things about, about us, going in circles on this or so forth. But look, the community benefits agreement was passed before the two of us got here and before all of us were sworn in for this term.
Yeah.
Right? December 2019. This developer, January, February, March, April, May. I think it was the second meeting in May or the first meeting in June.
No, it was the first in June.
The first meeting in June, right, is when it came to the city council. So 5 months went by, and there was no mention, I presume, of the community benefits agreement responsibility for this entity until it came to us.
Yeah.
And then we get blamed for slowing down development. It is not our job to educate developers who the administration is working with about the requirements they must uphold. Right? So don't come to us in the last minute and say we're asking too many questions. No, that's our job. You should have properly informed the developer before they came to us.
Now let me ask you.
We wouldn't be in this bind.
Now let me ask you this, just playing the devil's advocate. Once again, I think all you all are on the same page, and I think you all would agree on that. But what would you say to somebody who says, listen, that's all academic and it's the truth. Everything that you said in a perfect world, I agree with. But the reality is, in the nuts and bolts of everyday operations of this, is we are trying to get Gary residents who are qualified jobs here, because ultimately we want them to do what? Buy homes and then pay the property taxes. Let's give the example of the $20 million investment on Fifth Avenue. I don't know if that's Allied or the steel rolling company that I believe is down there. They had a ribbon company the other day. Alliance, excuse me. And I believe they hired a number of Gary residents and gave them good paying jobs. So what do you say to the administration? Says, listen, we want to get where you're getting. But right now, we have to be practical. Every day when we're out here paving, sending our guys banging the pavement, we've got to go out here and be able to negotiate to get people coming here. Sure, this is a great place. We've got a beautiful lakefront. This place is up and coming. But the reality is we're not exactly getting people beating down our door, and we've got to go out here and make it appetizing.
Well, a manufacturing facility is not equivalent to residential housing, right? So this facility, there'll be jobs created in terms of construction of it, but once it's done, it's done, right? And the bottom line is, if you can't find affordable, you're going to then have to go to whatever you can find to live there. Right. At the end of the day, they got to make their debt service and they got to bring in rents.
Yeah.
Whosoever has the money to pay is who they're going to end up accepting down the road, right?
Yeah.
To keep the place viable. So I think those are false equivalencies. We can't compare what U.S. Steel may want to do, or Alliance Steel, or TMB2, which are ongoing employers, to a one-time development. It may have future phases. The other problem is that at some point we have to have a middle class. The city of Gary does not have a middle class. And let me be clear, right? We don't have a lot of families who are moving into the city, right?
Okay.
And we cannot, one, sustain our population, certainly not grow it, if we aren't bringing in families. Number two, and we can talk about the school referendum, we have to improve our education system. But number three, we cannot have concentrated poverty. People of means, professionals of whatever age, are not going to move next door to a WIC office. I'm sorry.
I got you. I'm agreeing with you.
So, and at some point, and here's here's the other problem with.
I'm not gonna say that.
Here's the problem. He doesn't live near one.
I know. I'm gonna let Will be the guy. I'm gonna let Will be that guy.
But and here's the problem: we don't have a middle class, and we have high poverty, and we're bearing the brunt for the whole region. You know, there was an article.
But let me ask you this real quick about the middle class, because doesn't it come down to certain things like residency and things like that? Because we do have people that come through there. Now, obviously, you can't make teachers and things. We've heard about the laws downstate with police and fire. But the reality is that there are people that come in here, make a nice living, and then they just choose not to live here.
Absolutely.
You know, so,
and I think, you know, look, that's why I've been a stickler with the civil service jobs that we do control, right? So if you're going to be a department head or employee in the city, you need to live here. And we need to strongly encourage. Councilman Brewer is working on legislation that he talked about in terms of incentivizing folks to build here, to buy here. And I think I've talked to a lot of our police officers and firemen, and I should say firefighters.
There you go.
Men and women,
exactly.
Please.
You better get woke. You better get woke, Will. You better get woke.
So, and many of them have said to me, look, I wouldn't mind living in the city. We just don't have the proper housing stock. We don't have the amenities in terms of the housing that people would want. And everybody doesn't want to do, you know, take on new construction projects themselves, nor do they want to have spot development, right? Where you have a new house and everything around you is not right.
Okay.
So we need to create subdivisions, and you might want to talk.
Yeah, well, then once again, you're going to have to incentivize somebody to come in with some money that's not getting government grants for low-income housing and to come out here and really believe in putting some development.
Exactly.
That's what I'm asking.
Right, but you can do that. And what I'm saying is what just happened at Broadway Lofts, I think that hurts market rate development. I think if I'm looking to do something like market rate and I see the layout of what's around it, and the reason why I think downtown is so critical for market rate development and development focus in general, sometimes we get caught up in these, everything is going to Miller, right?
Yeah.
Or everything is going to University Park, or everything's about the airport. The downtown area is something that we all can share, right? We can all be proud of it. We can all be stakeholders in it. Yeah, we know there's other areas that are slated for development because of the location and other resources, but this is something we got to really, I think clearly about. But I want to.
All right, well, be quick, because you got it going, Will, and I do want to go to you, Ron, because this is kind of your wheelhouse as well. What do you listen? We know, Ron, and I want you to weigh in on that, because what you're saying is right about the middle class and about the development. But let's look at the track record. For instance, we do have people that come over here, get homes off the tax rolls and things like that. And you want to know that you know the truth. You're in real estate. Is that it's a lot easier to get federally, government guaranteed money through a Section 8 than to go out here and take chances on rent in an area that that has high unemployment. So there's going to have to be this new kind of perception. You're going to have to be able to will and deal. Go ahead, Ron. Speak to that, please.
Well, before you start trying to lure in these high-end people or families of that nature, no one wants to move here if it's not safe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have to deal with the safety of this community, and I think I would like to deal with that even with the gas station ordinance that's coming up also.
Oh, yeah.
The city is not safe. People talk about how it's not safe. I mean, I was on the phone with William just probably earlier this week here, and he was telling me about a situation where he had to intervene because someone felt not safe coming to this community.
Yeah.
So how can you expect someone to say, I'm going to build a $200,000 house, $300,000 house, in a certain area,
and they're
when they don't feel safe,
right.
and they're picking up the newspaper in another community, they're hearing all the bad news about what's going on in Gary. I mean, majority of the time when an article is written on Gary, it's all bad news. Someone shot, someone killed, and we play those same things too to each other and the conversation that we have and things of that nature. So we have to deal with that. The second thing is we have to deal with our building department. The way the codes are written, you know, it's hard to build a home in Gary because our requirements are so high.
Now, does that go to you or redevelopment?
It kind of deals with us a little bit with the council, so we need to look at that. If you look at how electrical has to be put in the house, you can't put Romax in the house in Gary.
Okay.
You have to pipe the house. In other communities surrounding us, you can run Romax. It's much cheaper to run Romax through a house than it is putting pipe.
So what's stopping the change?
Oh, we just have to be done.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation that I'm looking to have in the next couple of weeks. There, me and the building new commissioner, we've been having conversation.
Yeah.
But we want to look at those changes that way we can make the process easier for people to come and build here. Because I have spoke to a couple of developers, Councilman Smith, Herb Smith. Yeah. We had a conversation where he couldn't get a developer to come in and build in the Miller area because he was saying that it costs so much to put into the material to build those type of homes there for the average family anyway.
Well, interesting stuff. You got it going. We got a lot of callers right here. I want the public to get in on this. Carl, how you doing? You're on with the Gary Common Council.
Yes, I have a question. The 21st Avenue, 3 blocks east of Broadway, there was a property used to be for women, for girls, McCullough School or something like that.
The old Locke School?
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
There's a big building, we got houses around it, with like a little college up there for women, for girls.
Mm-hmm.
No.
McCullough School, 21st, right, 3 blocks east of 21st Avenue. It was purchased by a church. What's going to happen with that? What is going on there? Academy or something? I see it built up and fixed all around here. What's going to happen with that place?
All right, thank you. Let it go ahead.
Yeah, so it was not a school for girls. It was Logoland Academy. That's off of 21st and I believe Pennsylvania is the street. I think I can't remember the name of the church. I want to say Temple Deliverance. That might be incorrect, but a church did purchase that property, and what they have already done is they have instilled, I think, a 2-phase facet. So they have an opportunity for you to rent co-working space there for businesses. And then there is also residential living for rent as well. Mm-hmm. I think the name of the entity is like a computer learning center. I have not spoken to the proprietor of that business yet, but it is a reverend who's associated with the church, and I might misspeak on it. I think they just had an open house a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So that's the extent that I know of it. You can feel free to drop by and call them. Yeah, that's all that I know about it. Yeah.
All right, let's get some phone calls. Call, how you doing? You're on the Gary Common Council. Hello? All right, well, give us a call back. But anyway, go ahead, Ron. I know you wanted to kind of add on to something.
So but when it comes to tax abatement, I'm definitely 100% in favor of tax abatements. You have to do something to lure people in. Yeah. And we have not seen a steady growth of people building homes in this community. We haven't seen a steady growth of real development going up on our main corridors inside our city. I was in support of Broadway Law because I've been on the council. I'm in my 9th year. Yeah. You have to deliver something to the people. Mm-hmm. And inside of the downtown area, we have tore down a lot, but nothing has really went up. But I thought this would be a good project because it's not low income. And there's a difference between low income
and affordable housing.
Yeah, a bit different. You have to come in at a certain income, but it does not stop you from going up. Okay. The problem was with, I think that was Woodlake Village and Concord, when they got ready to sell and they brought a new owner in and they had to redo the whole loan that they wanted to do for fixing up, they had to change the guidelines. Mm-hmm. So the guidelines went back down. But you had people that was there making $80,000, $90,000 that started off in.
I know what you're saying. Yes. They kind of outgrew.
Absolutely. So
their coverage.
This can be the same thing, and it will be the same thing because people in that market there, in the job market, everybody's looking for more. Yeah. Better opportunity and things of that nature. But I think this will be just that. I will hope in the future as things are changing in the downtown area, that it will convert to a market rate. I mean, nothing stops that from in the future, but I think you have to have a baseline where you started.
We're going to get Natalie quick, but I want to ask Will, because you kind of initiated this, and I'm just asking, would you all be in favor of, and I guess I'll use the word cap, on a number of low-income housing in this city? Would you just say, listen, we've got enough. We're going to just limit it to a certain amount of square feet, and then we're done there, and we're going to move on to middle-class and market rate housing?
Absolutely. We have more, whether it's affordable or low income, I would dare say we have more property than the rest of the county combined.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just, it's mostly, I mean, it's...
And to a certain degree, it funnels a lot of the people that might into just one area in the region.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this has become, and not only that, I mean, I want to look at even some of these other, I support mental health programming, but a lot of these mental health facilities that are opening up.
Yeah.
We don't have the infrastructure in our police department. We don't have the social services infrastructure to handle all of that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of issues. Our police department gets a lot of calls to particular places, and it's just repeated over and over and over. And those folks don't pay property tax. Right? So it's something, it's something that's going up, but I mean, what is it costing us?
I know.
And my concern is that, okay, it starts out affordable, and I certainly, he's more optimistic than me when it comes to this development. I certainly hope that it will become market rate.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it can also go down, right? Because if those folks can't meet debt service, and if someone has the income to pay, wherever it's coming from, they're going to take it.
I like
because
you,
they
bro.
got to keep the place open.
I like you. I think I might have voted for you. I don't know. Let's let Natalie go. Let's let Natalie ask the question.
A couple things, and I'm going to respond. Or if we continue to allow the low income to keep coming into our community, what's that opening up for businesses? I mean, at some point you got the cap and you got the cut, and then you bring it into your downtown area. Chicago tried that a few years back, way back, to their detriment, and then they had to open up the downtown area to bring businesses back into downtown in terms of flourishing. A lot of times you don't think of housing in your downtown area, you think of more of businesses. So that's mine. But there's a young lady that wanted to know, again, we ask every week, and she calls me every week, clean slate. What's going on with that? And shouldn't we see more weeds and stuff that are torn down?
Did you ask your mayor that week?
Yeah, I just did. I just asked him.
Did he? What was his response?
They're moving along well.
I was told, I had a community meeting last night, and the question came up, I mean, it was the same person, had anyone been hired? And I was told that 2 people had been hired. So I don't know beyond that where they are or what they're doing, but I'm told it 2.
Yeah, there are people that work for Clean Slate.
Well, for me, I would like to see that they know how to cut grass. I mean, it's like they went with scissors and chopping, and everything is not really smoothly manicured.
Right.
So we need to be on this.
All right.
Well, my thing with Clean Slate is I thought what they was cutting should have been pushed back even more. I think you need to have a radius at least 10 to 20 feet back from the curb side. It wasn't pushed back a lot further what I would like to see it pushed back. But that's a one-time cut.
Right.
I mean, when you start cutting these lots there, you have to have some type of maintenance plan. Okay, if I cut this month, we're going to skip a month, we're going to come back in the 3rd month. I mean, there has to be some type of plan.
What if the administration said, listen, there's a lot, this is an expansive area.
I know,
you know, and it didn't just start now, and we are trying to go out here and make the first passes. It's not going to look like a high manicured yard, not at the first one. We got high weeds, we've got debris that's under the weeds. I know we did a cleanup over on Martin Luther King Drive. You remember you came out there and helped us out. There was a rug under and a couch almost half submerged in there.
We found boats and hot tubs.
It's not that easy.
All this type of stuff. Yeah. But I have always said, give me quality over quantity.
Right.
I mean, you may not be able to clean the whole city, but you need to be able to demonstrate to the residents of this community and people coming through, hey, Broadway from 4th all the way down to 53rd, these lots are cut.
Right.
5th Avenue, I mean, you have to demonstrate a certain area or start somewhere. Just trying to say, we cut here and we went to that area, but I mean, it's going to rain eventually, and the sun is going to shine eventually, and this stuff is going to grow right back up. It doesn't take long. I mean, we got a drought right now, and things are dying off. But you let us get a good soak in this stuff. You
appreciate how big this city is, though, Ron, and how many general service people do we have? We only got, 6 code enforcement? I mean, it's hard.
It's very hard.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
I would say this. I can't speak on Clean Slate, but we have asked for the administration to provide us information in terms of where have they been in the past?
Yeah.
What's the target areas? I've asked for that,
Yeah.
especially because I know that they have been in the forests, especially on the east side in Midtown.
Mhm.
But I don't know, like, hey, they're going to be in the Valley area between this time. I didn't know that information.
Right.
So I did request that a couple of weeks ago and have not received it. I want to say that what I have done personally is reached out to our Commissioner Kyle Allen, to get additional support in the 4th District to come back and do some of those major lots. And they actually do full clean.
Yeah.
I'm talking about pristine, okay?
You talking about the county?
This is the Lake County Community Correction
Okay.
Department.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So the field officer is Ronald Powell. And so he has been very supportive, as well as Commissioner Allen, in
Good
coming
job.
out in the 4th and getting those done.
Yeah.
So of course I like documentation. You can see that on my community page on Facebook.
She's one of those people in your class.
I mean, because I was very impressed
Yeah.
with the new word that I think I had mentioned here that I learned, just a manicured look. Even on those blocks, right? And then they actually are picking up debris as well.
Yeah.
And they came right after the storm that we had on the 10th of August and did some of the cutting of the trees. So we've been trying to utilize all resources that we have access to support the initiatives that
Nice.
General Services is doing as well within the district.
Well said. Go ahead.
I wanted to respond. I'm not talking about clean slate.
I know you're not. I know. Go
But,
ahead.
and again, I know it has worked well in Chicago and other places,
Right.
and I'm sure Mr. Reeves was familiar with that. So we'll see how it goes. But I wanted to respond in part to what Natalie brought up, and it's a couple things. A lot of times we get questions. People say, "Why can't we have an Aldi, or why can't we have a Trader Joe's, or why didn't Walgreens stay?" They look at the numbers.
Right. I mean, of course.
It's the median incomes. We would love to have a lot of these places, but if your numbers don't meet up, it's just quantitative for them. It's not personal. It's not emotional. It's not charity. It's purely the data sheet. And if the data doesn't add up, they're not going to move in.
Well, you look at Walgreens out in the middle of there. I mean,
You're close.
the median income is there,
It's the highest.
but the people did not support it.
But we got
Well,
a general
you had-
dollar.
you had a-
Dollar General.
But,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is, when they showed us those numbers, and I was in a meeting with Mayor Karen,
Yeah.
we had to stop the argument because we did not support it. They said we was going out there shopping in Lake Station.
Well, I mean-
so therefore they're sending us to Lake Station for the 24-hour one because we're not supporting it.
Yeah. See, I never bought that argument.
I don't
Okay. I never bought that
But
argument.
but I will say that I think part of what happens is because so many other services, whether it's restaurants,
Right.
etc., aren't in the city, people tend to do everything when they go out. So if I'm going to go to Maryville, if I'm going to Portage, or if I'm going to go to Hobart, to Lake Station, then I'll just do everything I want to do there, and then I just come home. I'm not going to make all these stops. Now, I still think, loss prevention was also higher at this
Well,
location
that's where I was
than
about to
other-
go, because
Yeah.
I think that was a real. And I'll let you finish, because I think Ron brought that point up, and I think it's it's painful because this is all of our home. This is our
It
town.
is, it is.
But when you think, and let's just talk about the pandemic, the new businesses that popped up with, let's say, Instacart and DoorDash and Grubhub and all these things. And then you see that it's only happening in one neighborhood. I've got two friends, and one of them is a business owner. He's doing it just to supplement his income. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to such and such part. And so you've got good people who are staying at home who would love to have been able to dine in or get food delivered that won't go to that area. And so, you're getting deprived of a lot of stuff by the simple fact we don't have certain things intact.
And it's not a two-way street, right? We go out, but nobody just coming in,
Right.
right? I had a realtor earlier this week. She told me, and she's in a surrounding community. It may be Crown Point. And she had a client that she said, I showed him some homes in Hammond, but I don't do Gary.
Oh,
She said, I'm not going there.
Right.
She said, I will pay you to show him this house.
And of course, you
I
took
don't
that
know.
offer.
She said, I had a traumatic experience, I was chased, but this is, the notion.
Now wait a
that,
minute. See, that we got these guys. I came over there and I was chased.
Oh yes, all these things,
Oh,
right?
come on.
So,
Yeah, but I was asking the same thing.
Come on, ain't nobody
Right?
chase you.
But that is a problem.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that people even have that perception.
Yeah.
And it hurts us from a business standpoint.
It does.
Who's willing to move in. But I think that we have to push hard. We have to really work on that improving our median income. And we've got to do, to Councilman Brewer's point, we've got to start incentivizing residential development that is connected, right? Where you really have a community, not just one home here and there. But when we look at Word, we look at Nobel, these are areas where potentially you could create a whole little subdivision, 25, 30 homes, where some of our police officers and others who make middle incomes could move. Right? And feel like it's, but then of course we have the school conversation, which I hope we're
going to get to in a minute. I wanted to say this because I don't want it to get lost. And, obviously all of us, we understand that there are people who grew up in this town and, might be undereducated or underserved as far as skills and things like that. And I don't want to go out here and kind of give the impression. I know the three of you, and I know it's not true where we're trying to say, you know what, get rid of all the poor people, throw them out of here. They don't. I think that and you just kind of alluded to it when you were talking about raising wages, bringing things in here in which people can afford to get that first home ownership or get into programs that I remember Ty talking about a while ago. I'm just saying, so I don't want it to get lost. What we're saying is that we also want to develop a middle class because this community is obviously absent of one. It is as obvious as like the sky is blue. There is no middle class here. You got people that are doing fairly well, and then you got people that are trying to make ends meet, and the city is very much reflective of it. I just wanted to get that out there.
Absolutely. To be progressive, you need all three.
Yes.
You need a variation of such. I just wanted to chime in real quick. I think that we've all mentioned great things, but what we're really lacking is a plan.
Yes.
So where would that position be? We do want to incentivize, different developments, but what is the structure of that? Are we capitalizing on the rail line or, the South Shore? No, we're not. But is there a plan to do so? What is the vision for the Broadway corridor? If it's not, we don't want to have concentrated property there, but how do we get additional businesses? And then, Natalie said that, people don't think about living downtown. I do. I came from New York, Atlanta.
I lived in Atlanta too, yeah. So
as a kid growing up, and then when I moved to those areas, yes, I pictured myself having a Greystone or a Brownstone on Broadway, right?
Right.
So
I picture myself living in Sheraton at the top of the penthouse.
Not the Sheraton. Take it back now.
Right.
But we are missing a plan. And so I think the council needs to work together to say, okay, along with redevelopment, to say, hey, okay, these are the only type of tax-based incentive projects that we're even going to entertain. If you don't have these parameters, it's a miss.
Right.
This is the area that we're going to have a focus in terms of residential incentives for new builds.
Right.
If it's not outside of the scope of that for now, for the next 10 years, we're not even thinking about it. We're not going to be able to see the impact if we're doing piecemeals. If it's something happening in University Park, and you got something in Morningside, and you got the Miller area, but you don't see anything, in the 5th and 4th, and it's not even about districts, it's the location and proximity to the transportation hubs, and so that's important in terms of a plan, a vision, a state of the city address that gives us this information so that we can say, okay, team, and the team is all parties, the legislative as well as the executive branch. This is what we can do on our end to ensure that we're moving forward towards that plan, and this is what you guys can do on your end as well.
We're gonna go to the phone. I want to ask Gary. Go ahead. Go.
I just want to chime in real quick.
Please.
Councilman Atkins brought up a good point. The plan. One thing I like, and William started attending also too last year, and I don't think we had any this year thus far. What we used to have with the Gary Housing Authority there, we used to have a partners meeting. Where this was led by the Gary Housing Authority, where they brought all partners together. Council, the executive branch, the schools, in the hospital, anybody that played a part of decision making inside the city, they brought us all together. And we knew what each other was doing, so no one was overstepping or doing something that someone didn't work the plan pretty much. Well, Councilman Atkins has just outlined. But we have to get back to that. We know exactly that Gary Housing Authority is trying to get out of quote unquote low income housing business and things, and they're tearing down. We know that, but their thing is, okay, once we tear down, we have all this land. Okay, city, what do you all want to see? How can we help? How can we assist? And I think we have to get back to that where we're sitting down to the table. See, the problem is we're not sitting down at the table as council and executive. And that's a big disconnect. And we have to...
You all aren't communicating at all.
We're communicating. We're communicating some, but it's not at the level where we're making real progress.
When you need something passed on all 3 readings.
I mean, we shouldn't find out.
Are you all antagonistic? I mean,
no, I think the challenge is that lot of things are last minute,
Right, okay.
And I get it. There's some things they don't want to disclose or don't want people to know. They don't want it to get out publicly, and I understand when you're making real estate deals, but you have to realize at some point you're going to come before the council, and we certainly shouldn't be hearing about things in the streets. In terms of the city's buying something or negotiating with someone, specifically if it's in your district, right?
Who's
So
the
I think-
liaison between you all and the administration? Corporation counsel or who? Who do you all kind of really stay in contact with on a regular basis?
I don't think there's a consistent person.
Oh.
It might normally be a chief of staff
Yeah,
or an advisor of some kind, but it's kind of hit or miss.
Okay.
But I think it's easy to, and I'm sure they have a lot of challenges. They do.
Yeah, they do.
But at some point, to Councilwoman Atkins' point, we do have to have a vision and a plan and a state of the city. I don't plan on voting on any budget, or if I'm the presiding officer, I don't plan on assigning to committee any budget where there has not been a state of the city first. Right, we're 9 months in, and we do press conferences very easily, so there's no reason why we can't give a state of the city.
Oh, okay. That's a whole other thing.
We can Zoom it, we can do it
all
however,
right. So you always bring something in
we're
the
not
show,
going to
don't
do a
you?
budget. We're not going to do a budget unless there's a state of the city.
But I think that's very important.
Yeah.
What you said, a liaison.
Yeah.
Mayor Karen had one. She has several. I mean, I always tell Mayor Karen, BR was your best that you had for us. I mean, she will walk down the aisle and make sure we get that information. I think this administration needs just that. I'm not looking for the mayor to pick up and call me on everything that goes on.
Yeah.
But he should have a person that's designated that's making sure that leaders of planning, finance, the president of the council, or certain council members are getting this information on a regular.
Yeah.
Whether it's a text message or some type of conversation on the phone, that's something we should be getting, not hearing information or getting a call from the press. Hey, what do you know about this? And you're looking dumbfounded because you don't know what's going on.
Right.
And they feed into that too when
Okay.
they know there's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like kids and everything. No, mom and dad not getting along. Trust me, they're gonna play the game the way they feel fit.
Yeah.
But we have to come together as leaders of this community to make sure it moves forward.
Absolutely, and that's what's number one.
Yeah.
I mean, and it takes that communication. Look, we've had no mayor's report for, multiple council meetings over the last couple months.
No
Nothing.
mayor's report.
I mean, some people in the administration are on, some aren't. I mean, there has to be a sense of mutual respect.
Well, doesn't the
Even
mayor
if you're
himself show up there and give you
not-
his report?
Well, no, it's been 3 or 4 meetings where no attendance.
Mhm.
Well, the
3 meetings, I think.
Well, the meeting before last, he was there because that's
Right.
when he allowed Tammy to speak
Right.
during that one. So,
But 3 of them have been, which I'm sure he's busy at, but somebody should be sent to offer, here's what's happening in the city, here's what we're working
Yeah.
on, here's what you should be aware of, right? It's just mutual respect. He didn't have to do it, he could have somebody else to do it,
Yeah.
right? And so that's all we're saying. I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And it's not about being anti-administration. We're all pro-Gary, and that means everybody has to realize that we're not employees of the mayor.
Right.
We were independently elected officials.
Yeah.
We have a job to do.
You're an
He has a
independent
job to
branch.
do. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to work together. He needs us, and we need him for
So
something.
once again, I want
Right,
to, because I like breaking exclusives. What it'll take before we get a budget in the city for you to sign off
a
on it?
State of the City address.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the phones. Caller, how you doing? You're on with the Gary Common Council.
Finally,
Yes.
I've been enjoying your conversation. I heard someone say, who wants to live over a WIC building? Well, I want all of you to listen. Who wants to live where there are a residential area, but you're going to put manufacturing? I mean, listen to that.
Oh, that is a good.
And
that's
what
a-
they did, and let me explain, because if you speak to the Glen Park residents, nobody came around asking, getting their opinion, talking to the neighborhood. People have lived out there 30, 40 years directly. They look right into the golf course. They were not contacted. The golf course has been sold. I guess it's a done deal. And you know what? They weren't even contacted. And I think that's totally unfair. And Ms. Ty, I wanted to mention to you, what's happening to the old stocking factory? And also, one other thing about the golf course. Now, Jeffrey,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
know if that lot was sitting across the street from you,
Yeah.
you wouldn't see no forest.
Mm-hmm.
Because you and others would make sure whatever way it could be done, it would be done. For the golf course, you to pass by there and it looks like a forest It's unacceptable. Unacceptable. You have across the street from Roosevelt, you have the project. See, that's no longer there. You don't see any weeds, any forest there. Ivanhoe on 11th Avenue, whatever. You don't see any forest. What's wrong with just because there is no Long Rock Golf Course? What's wrong with the maintenance more on the lawn? But I want to ask about the stocking factory over here, because that's, to me, that's really prime property.
All right, let him give him the opportunity. Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's no stocking factory. She probably is referring to the land where the stocking factory used to be. So it's not prime property right now because it is, I would say, damaged, for lack of a better phrase, with contaminated soil. Yeah. So 2 years ago, there was a project, and I can't remember, it escapes me the name of the company in Chicago that has worked with the city as well as the Green Urbanism Department to install or implement various plant life to help the remediation of that soil. And so it's a longevity in terms of a plan, in terms of how long it takes for that soil to even become usable before anything could even be developed on that site. I do have an issue with the upkeep of that property. And when I did inquire before I took the seat, doing work before I took the seat, right?
Did you hear that?
Yes,
man?
I did.
Yeah.
This was like in November of last year. I did inquire in terms of financing. So who's in charge of, making sure that the lot will be kept? It was grant funded.
Right.
So how long is that grant, in position? And so there was a plan so they can have a reoccurring maintenance plan for at least 4 to 5 years, I believe. But, I live on that block, so no.
You know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, so nothing has been done.
She did the work before she took the seat, gentlemen.
You hear it? I had a vested interest in it because, again, it's literally within walking distance of my house, right? And so that's the answer to that. It will be a long time before there can be any development on that land because it is contaminated soil. All
right, let's go to the phones. Call, how you doing? You're on with Gary Common Council. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, William. Good morning. I don't know where you guys are from, but I hope you don't never leave.
You're a little muffled, Medea.
Okay.
All right.
All right, look. First of all, you guys, you say when people were losing their money and they're going to other places, it's because they're bummed at the gas station. Asking a woman, she put up to get gas and she's a bum because the guy walked up to her. That's first of all. Second of all, when you're talking about cleaning up the lot, they don't want to tear up their lawnmowers. Brian, you know and I know when you get over there by the railroad track, how many times do we find bricks? So I know what I'm talking about when I speak, okay? Then I'm really upset about something. I really want you guys to look into this. I'm on the road on 15th Avenue. I'm losing all kinds of sand. They're going to tow those cars. They're going to clean it up. Now, here's what I want done. I want those people that have to pay Gary for cleaning that area up. You see what I'm saying? That's coming out of Jeff's pocket. Because Jeff is working. You guys working. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if they're made to clean that up and they're made to pay, it's been like that, you guys, I promise you, for over 8 months. And I've just gotten tired of looking at it, and now it's war. All right, continuous care. I want you guys to look into that. Mr. Williams, you're the realtor. You know what's going on in the church. Please check out 4940 East 13th Avenue, sir. They gave it to continuous care.
All right.
Now, nobody has come to cut the grass. It destroyed. It was a home. It was not a house. It was a home. It destroyed it. Now, Ron, they're dumping over there. My truck is down. I can't get to it, Ron. It's fair. It's fair. It's continuous care. It's a paycheck, like you guys do, okay? Why can't one of those guys come out and cut their grass? You see what I'm getting at? Everybody has got to work together. And it's, I always say this, and I know Jeffrey gets so mad at me, because if the residents can pick up a beer or a Pepsi, they can pick up a broom. Have a great day, and please respond to me, you guys.
Go ahead.
Well, I will have, as I did before with another issue, I will have code enforcement go out to that address and do what they do. There's a legal process for it, and I've sent the police out, I think, not too far from that location before. To do things. So that's all we can do. I mean, that's...
Well, Ron has been summoned.
Oh, well, yeah, right. Well, he's
going
a superhero.
I'll call him.
Get on the phone. Take care of that. Let's go to the phone.
I did want to say something about this IUN deal.
Go ahead. Hold on, caller, before we get to you. Go ahead.
I don't know specifically what it is, right? And I think that gets to the problem we're talking about. Now, I know there's some rumors about what types of development that's being planned there, but this is a major city property. City-owned property is being sold, and you have 3 council persons, 2 of whom are on the Planning and Development Committee, that can't affirmatively tell you what's being sold.
Right.
Or what the buyer is going to build. That's a problem.
All right, there you go. Let's go to the phone. Caller, you're on. How you doing with Gary Common Council?
Am I on now?
You are on now, ma'am.
Okay, I would really like to know about Humanity for Habitat. Do they have anything to do with the development of Gary? Because they build a little community by the YWCA. Now, I was wondering, could they build more homes in Gary? Is that feasible to Gary?
Oh, okay.
I'm definitely in support of them. They have built several homes throughout the city of Gary and have done a great job. And great residents have moved inside our city, and some of them was current renters inside our city. And if you go through some of the areas where they have built, the homes are pretty well kept up still. People are taking pride in them, and the season has changed where you see flowers, grass is being cut. So I'm very pleased with the development they have done thus far.
All right, let's go to the phones. Let's see, caller, how you doing? You're on with the Gary Common Council.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Hey.
Morning.
I'll do real quick at a statement and a couple questions. It's following up on that Habitat. I know they built one on Malcolm X Street, a couple on Malcolm X Street out in Park. And so the same question I asked the mayor earlier, any update on Malcolm X Street and Richard Hassett Street? Second question, kind of follows the statement. Good friend of mine, great job in Chicago, lived in Gary, wanted to build a house, had to move out of the city. Her daughter, engineer, same thing. Another daughter, nurse, same thing. And, I just think about the golf course and that big swath of land, and is it $11 million, whatever it is they sold it for, it's unbelievable. But why couldn't we enhance the golf course, get a developer who's going to build some homes around there so these people who want to be part of this middle class or upper level working class would have a place to stay in Gary. We got to expand our vision of things that we want in this community. Jobs. And another question I asked the mayor, and I heard you all talk about the community benefits agreement. It's good to hear that moving forward. But the current job situation, any plans in place, or what are we going to address that?
Oh, okay. Thanks for being. You were breaking up at the end. Go ahead, either one. Let's start with the ladies. The lady. I'm sorry.
I mean, when that's really a statement for us.
Yeah.
And my colleagues might feel differently, but we agree. We agree that there's an abundance of things that could happen in that area. But we didn't know about it until 2 days ago. Yeah. So in terms of who the purchase sale agreement is with, we have no knowledge in terms of that developer or entity or person or LLC, whatever it is. So I just hope going forward we will be included in those conversations to be able to make suggestions and have more educated response to the public as it relates to that. But we are in agreement with you in terms of the possibilities that could happen with that land. And there's an abundance of land that has that same type of situation, whether it's a Gary Community School property or a city-owned property. And we've discussed that in previous conversations this morning as well. I think the gentleman mentioned the status that he had already asked the mayor about the status in terms of Mayor Hatchard's
Street. Today.
Yeah, as well as I would want to know I didn't hear the mayor this morning, so
he had no information on it. They're not really concentrating on it right now.
Okay, so that was something that was I think made in executive orders from previous administration, And so we have no update as it relates to that. It will be up to the executive branch to initiate and install that.
Yeah.
But we hope we can get some type of information, possibly in this, the state of the city address that will let us know if they plan on doing something related to that or not.
I want to ask Will a question before we go, and we're going to take a couple more calls because I do want to get you all's opinion about the referendum. That's very serious business, and a lot of people are actively campaigning on both sides, and citizens really want to know where a lot of the leadership in the city feels about it. But I want to get back to you when we were talking about, I guess we were talking about, I guess, bringing certain businesses here and the perception here. With the relationship with the administration per se, has there been a conversation or is there an appreciation for the fact that the new administration says, look, we got in here, COVID-19 kind of hit at the beginning. When we took over, there was a lot of stuff going on. We're kind of keeping our head down. We're not checking in every 2 minutes. We've sat back, just like you all have done, and we've been doing work before we even took office. We've got a plan. We're trying to implement it. It's not about disrespecting you because, of course, we're all in the same team, but we just got our heads down. We're trying to work on some contacts. We're trying to move forward, and we can't check in with you every second. Have a little faith in the process, and then maybe come back, and we'll get back together. I mean, I appreciate what you said is that, there's not even a liaison where you all can kind of relay your thoughts back on a regular basis. But is there an appreciation for the fact that the administration is just might have their heads down just trying to push through?
I can't tell my constituents that. They were on me in November.
I tried to throw them a
They were
bone.
on me in November.
Yeah.
So look, here's the deal. We know it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And in some ways, as tragic as COVID-19 has been, that's kind of given, and there'll be more pressure, I think, without COVID-19 to have some answers about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? People have kind of given a pass because of that. And of course, since we live in a town, unfortunate for you, Jeff, that's 90% Democrat, if you win the primary in May 5th, 2019, that means for 7 months you knew you were your team together, right? So that's when you do all that. And of course, you get in office and you realize it's a lot harder to govern than to campaign, and then you realize what you're dealing with. So I think, sure, the first 90 days, right? Yeah. But, here we are at budget season. So I think that, certainly we recognize, but at the same time, you have to communicate. Okay. Because at the end of the day, we're held accountable for the votes that we take. And the public does expect us to know a little bit more than they do, right? I mean, we're kind of being paid to be here to do this, right? And we're at the table, or we hope we're at the table. So, look, you can't ask us for vote to support things, or not expect us to criticize things where appropriate if we haven't been included in the process.
Fair enough.
But Jeff, let me just say before you take the call.
Yes.
Now, I did have a conversation with the mayor, and he reached out to me at Cleveland City Hall, and we had a conversation about the same thing about the communication. And he has expressed that, hey, we have not been reaching out in that capacity, but that going forward, he's going to do better. Okay. With that and the communication lines and things of that nature. And I understand he has a job to do. Yeah. And I'm not taking away from him because I've been here 9 years and I know it's not a walk in the park. Part. The finances and things of that nature. And even the decision that has to be made with the golf course. Yes. I mean, it comes down to you need money to run the city. Yeah. I mean, we just took out a loan and we put the police station up or collateral and things of that nature. I mean, we're in desperate times in the city, and we're not going to play like we're not. Yeah. But the golf course, we looked at it with the previous administration. Mayor Prince is still doing the same thing, looking at it now, but there is a negotiation on the table now where they're going to make a vote on it. But the council was not involved in that or had the information on what was taking place, and it's today it's taking place. And it kind of. I have to deal with colleagues because I'm at large, and you are district council members and things of that nature. Plus, you're the old veteran on the thing. Yeah. So something they feel like I should know. I guess but you say yes. So I think, but that's really important though. The golf course is a big piece of real estate throughout the city, but something has to be done, and we do need taxes. We've got a little extra time because we started a little bit late, so I'm going to let the callers know because I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about something that is really important and you all want to talk about, and that's the referendum. I want to start with you, Todd. What are your thoughts? Oh my God, why are you going to start? Because ladies first.
Not with this one. I think it's a lot. I will do is make sure that I'm informed before making the decision. And I am also the president of another organization. It's IDAC, which is the Indiana Democratic African American Caucus, which is under the Democratic Party. And so we will be making sure that we're doing our due diligence of educating residents in terms of what it means, right? People look at it as just being a taxes, you know, but you have to understand the impact of the taxes, and then also the plan to manage the money that is coming from that. And that is what I want to know. The question is clear, but the plan to manage it effectively and to have a continuity in leadership as well is important to me. I think that the DUAB has took control over Garrett Community School Corporation in 2017. So that's 3 years. So within 3 years, they've had 3 emergency managers, correct? So I think it's important to understand what is the stability plan to make sure that that funding is managed appropriately and what it will address. And not just addressing the deficit, but also the curriculum. As we talk about economic development, there is no economic development. There is no instruction of a middle class without a strong education system, right? So we all knew, even prior to the takeover, that the curriculum was an issue, right? So what part of that plan will be addressed? I've taken the time to read the plan. I think it's called Path Forward plan that they put out a couple of days ago. And I also watched the show when you had, I guess, some members of the advisory board, which was interesting as well. But in that Path Forward plan, what is missing is SMART goals. So that's not a plan. That is objectives that you're saying that you're trying to work towards. But what are the SMART objectives, meaning quantifiable goals that you're going to put up under those objectives to make sure that you're hitting those goals? And so that's what I feel is missing. So I'm looking forward to our upcoming committee meeting, where our colleague, Councilwoman Linda Barnes-Cotwell, has sponsored a resolution in support of it. And I believe that the leadership, Dr. Paige McNulty, that she'll be in that meeting as well. And so those are my questions.
Now, you're an alumni. You've got obviously a vested, very notable alumni from
a proud Gary Westside.
And take what you can get. You've been taking Democrat shots at me all day, but you'll never hear a Panther give a Cougar that much. But you really are. You're a notable. I mean, so you know.
I was in the talented program. Let me be clear. I was a Banneker Achievement Center alum as well, right? And so it was to my disdain to hear that Banneker level of academic excellence had declined so drastically.
So when you hear that they want to put your pool back at Westside, when you hear that they're trying to fix the roof and that they're trying to do some infrastructure things to at least get that place up to a decent level, so you know the reality is the students are there. They don't have to argue these adult things. You know, they're the ones that are going through their high school experience with, you know, leaky roofs, no pool, and thing like that. So, you know, playing to your heartstrings.
Don't do that. No. So on the surface, I think the tagline has been, you know, investing in our students. Like, we want the community to invest in our students. However, was the community involved? You know, during those discussions with MGT management and was that a factor of them to involve the community effectively and appropriately? So my heartstrings don't play on that. You know, I want if it's new infrastructure versus rebuilding the old.
Like a new school, you're all in.
If it's $20-something million or whatever the onset is in terms of it's higher than that to get. You know, no. When we look at again our neighboring towns and the facilities and capital expenditures or projects that have been in place in those. Is this the right approach for, again, longevity? I don't want a Band-Aid fix.
All right, let's go. Will, I know you're chopping into bit.
So, just real quickly, I support it. I want to learn more, of course. But at the end of the day, most of our neighboring cities that are doing well have already voted for a referendum. I think this is the third time at the dance.
Yes, it is.
And we can't have it both ways. I mean, look, the administration asked for the school corporation to demolish all those buildings. They went down to Indianapolis and got legislation passed that would mean that I think it was about $500,000 in monthly debt payments that they wouldn't have to pay
to put into another fund.
They could put into another fund. So when you put these demands on the school corporation, not as though the money is going to fall from the sky. So, and you're also potentially taking money away from curriculum and instruction. And if honestly, while I do not like dilapidated buildings, they are an eyesore. They have been for a long time. If the choice is between curriculum and instruction and tearing down buildings, I'm going to choose curriculum and instruction. I'm not going to sacrifice the education, the excellence of students because of an eyesore.
Yeah.
Because those kids can't wait. They don't have 5 more years to wait. So I think that we got to look at the total picture here. We can't demand that they spend money they don't have.
Right.
And then be surprised when there's a request for a referendum. In fact, at the press conference, I think my 3rd day in office, a reporter, I can't remember which one, she asked the mayor the question, okay, you're asking them to tear down all these buildings. Do you support a referendum? There was not an answer. So I'm not surprised that here we are having the referendum discussion at this point, because they're going to need funds in order to turn the district around.
Yeah.
And I would just say lastly that, there's questions about management. DUAP is probably pretty strict in terms of looking at how dollars are being spent.
Of course they are.
And we know what happened. I wasn't here, but I know how to read. And I've read the stories, and I've talked to a lot of people about how dollars were misspent for a long time within the school corporation. So I'm sure they're being much closer watched now than they. I understand someone said I might have problems with re-election. I don't really care about re-election. And I've said that from day one.
I'm watching
you
you, Will.
Problems with the
We
re-election.
haven't even made a year in. We're
Right.
not
They
thinking
said
about
because you support the school referendum. I will always support money for schools.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's teacher salaries, whether it's resources for the classroom, building a magnet school, whatever you're hand down the debt so that we can do some other stuff.
Yeah.
I will always most likely be in support of it. And even, being in real estate taxes. The reality is this: the way you treat your elderly and your children is a measure of your society. And when people choose to move to a place, that's right. When people choose to move to a place or invest in a place, and they see that there's no interest in investing in your schools,
Yes.
which is why we don't have young families, and certainly not young middle class families, moving to the city. They're going to places where they can educate their kids in the public schools.
Devil's advocate, as Jeff always says. So being that my demographic in my district is highly senior, that has been the question that I have gotten. Right?
Okay.
So the seniors and the impact of increase in taxes. So I think, again, just me being able to understand how to articulate the financial, I know it's minimal for me, right? But I just want to make sure that I can articulate it and give them real examples in terms of, based on the value of their home, look, et cetera. So I think that will be important for me to understand, to be able to communicate.
I think that's fairly on fixed incomes, and they call the radio saying, go ahead, Ron, your thoughts.
Well,
because you've been here through them referendums.
Absolutely. And I think we have to ask ourselves a real question. Do we really want a public school system? Just ask ourselves, because we have a huge number of charter schools in our community.
Yes.
And some of them are doing well. We got new built charter schools throughout the city. But we need to ask ourselves, since we have voted down twice, now, if this does not pass, the outcome is you may not have a Gary Community School system in the city of Gary. So I think we have to be very careful. This may be the vote that either we move forward or we're done with as far as Gary Community Schools.
Now, let me ask you this, because there has been a suggestion by people who are against it, say, I want to vote for referendum. I'm in favor of letting it kind of collapse upon itself and take the debt with it, and then possibly start something new and without the burden of all the debt.
I had the mentality also at one time.
Just let them have that and let it crash.
Let's start fresh. Let's create our own. I talked to the previous administration. Let's create our own school system.
Well, this is our own.
Well, right. Well, no, but you have so.
I know what you're saying. Though, kind of do it anew.
Yeah, a city charter school.
Yeah,
and it's city led with elected officials. Residents put on the board and things like that. But right now, in the charter schools, you don't know who's sitting on these boards.
So kind of bring them all together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think we need to think this thing all the way out. As Councilwoman Atkins has said, I would love to see if they were saying, hey, we're shutting down all schools. We want to build one major campus. This is what it's going to look like. These are the renderings. We need you all support. I'm down with it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's a full plan. I can see it. It's visual. We can see that where it's going to be at and things of this nature. But this is not what we have in here. So I need more information.
Right.
I support our school corporation, but I want to see, is this thing going to really last?
Yeah, because to Will's point, even, for those people that were saying what I just kind of said, and it does sound kind of good from, once again, an adult academic way. There are kids in the district now, about 4,000. What about them? What do they got to do? Just suck it up for the future? You know what I mean?
Well, there's only so many charter schools.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, charter schools can tell you bye-bye. The school
Right.
corporation can't do that.
Right.
Now, there's, like I said, there's a lot of great charter schools, but ultimately, do you want to have charter schools running your city?
No.
It's not the look for a city that's on the move,
Right.
or that's growing. I
Well,
mean,
you have to look at where the state is moving to.
They
The
are.
state is pushing charter.
Well,
the federal government at this time is pushing charter throughout.
Yeah.
So we have well, you know, some people say, well, I'm not going to be for, but if this is the trend that's going on, they're going to get on board. They may say this on the campaign trail, but if this is the trend that's already moving there, they'll let that trend keep going. And before you know it, this is what the reality is.
But I also think
I'll
that
let
there's
you
a lot
know
of
the meetings
communities. There are a lot of communities who are questioning charter schools.
Right.
And when you look at communities that are very successful, they don't have a lot of charters.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there are some good charter schools. They have filled in the gap. But you have to remember, the American Federation of Teachers, if I'm correct, they created the Teachers Labor Union created the first charter school in New York.
Yeah.
And the whole notion
Be
of a charter
careful.
school, but the whole notion of a charter school was to test new ideas,
Right.
new innovations, new programming, and then you into the public school system. Okay, now obviously that took a whole different path. There's a lot of folks, not all, but there are some people who are in it for the money.
Yes.
There's a lot of money that moves through charter schools.
Yes.
Right? And again, they have the ability to tell you bye-bye, right? Public school has to deal with you. They have to have the IEPs. They have to deal with Title I.
Yeah.
And so we have to realize that when you make these false comparisons between how the public school is doing and how the charter school is doing,
Yeah.
right? So I'm for, I like choices. I like options.
Oh, you still
But
choice?
ultimately, you want to have
I take my victory record.
ultimately, you want to have a strong public school system.
Yes.
It can have, trade and vocational programming, it can have first class gifted and talented programming, but you don't want to have 95%, 90% of your kids going to a variety of places whose interest often is not local. I'm not anti-charter schools, but you want to have, there's no successful community I know that has a weak public school system.
All right, we're going to take these last two calls and give you all an opportunity to kind of close it out. Caller, how you doing? Quickly, we're on with the Gary Common Council. Okay, hello? All right, well, cool. Caller, how you doing? You're on with the Gary Common Council.
Yes, I called and asking about the golf course, and if I answered the question, you went on right on to the next caller. No one even said anything about the golf course. And before I heard you say that you had to vote for something, whose job is it to make sure that the area that it's going to be built, that it's in, that the residents are familiar with that? And one other question, where was the city council? Maybe some of you were not on the city council at the time, when Roosevelt was dumped in the career center, at the career center. Where was all this enthusiasm about the students? Dumped in a building, cold, dumped in a building, no lockers, dumped in a building where no gym, dumped in a building where there was cubicles. Right now, how many of you all, at least a year ago, has walked through the career center? Now, according to Paige McNulty, they seem to be getting money to kind of rehab and continue more education at the career center. But when you have, matter of fact, you might not know, and how many of you do know that Roosevelt had an Eli Lilly scholarship?
All right, thank you very much. Go ahead.
We have talked about the Gleason Golf Course. I'll let Councilman Brewer summarize all of our thoughts. But I just want to say, I think it's important for our residents to understand you have an advisory school board that should be advocating for that, and they are elected officials. They do not have like administrative authority over any changes, but they are elected to represent you and to advise. So they should be informative. They should have community engagement sessions on their own, as we do as a council, to let you all know what's happening as it relates to that. So she said a year ago, within the last year, I mean, I wasn't on the council within the last year.
So I guess you was talking about from Roosevelt
At the
moving
career
over
center
to the
and-
career
Right.
center.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, Roosevelt started having a tremendous problem with boilers, and
Yeah.
the kid was out for weeks out of school, and especially like in the January month.
I think it was an issue with the like the environment as well. Wasn't it cold and in the
Yeah,
trailer
the
or
boilers
something
went
like
out,
that?
Yeah, the boilers definitely went out in there. And, you know, we all talked about the capacity of the students that was inside that big old school there.
Yeah.
And I went there one time when the boilers was out and the student was saying that there was no heat and things in the nature. And there was heat there, but there were certain rooms that size there, you really just can't shut down a building that size. Is the way that whole system is set up and the mechanicals and everything, everything is supposed to stay heated. And when you start shutting down things of that nature there, and you say, well, we put in a new boiler system, like we get a new heart. But my arteries are clogged, it does me no good.
Right.
And that's what you had.
Dr. Brewer.
You had a new boiler system put in there, but you had old pipes and you had water trying to push through pipes that was just clogged. So you wasn't getting the proper heat there. And just to redo it was a tremendous amount of money to do it. Now, I did suggest doing like P-Tech units, like you see in a hotel, putting those inside the classrooms and things of that nature.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Ron's pointing at me to P-Tech just like he did at the electrical box. You're the pro.
You know,
I know, I'm just messing with you. No, you know what you're talking about. I'm just messing with you.
Putting those inside the Roosevelt at the time, but you still had the problem there was not enough students to operate in a school of that magnitude there. Now, I don't know how all the configuration went about because, like you say, there is an advisory board over there. You know, I dealt with that because that was brought to us on the media attention. And we need the council to get involved. I was the president at that time, so I stepped in to see what was going on and worked with Dr. Pruitt at that time. And I worked with whoever was in charge of the buildings and grounds, man. I think Mr. Pruitt.
Mr. Pruitt,
And, you know, we talked and we saw the different problems that they was having there. So there was a tremendous number of problems at Roosevelt. So it wasn't just a shut down school because we didn't want Roosevelt there. There was a problem. We need to put the kids in a better environment.
Well said. Thank you very much, Ron. I want to thank all three of you. I'll let you close out. Start it off, Ron.
All right.
Once again, it's always good to see the three of you. We have fun, but I feel that you put a lot of great information out there, and I think everybody, even though they don't live in your district, appreciates what you all do. And I also think that to be committed to coming on this show and really just kind of laying it down and putting it out there. So I'll go to you, Ron. What do you want to say before we talk again?
Well, Jeff, it was good to be in here with you and the listening audience there. There is an important meeting that's taking place with redevelopment concerning the golf course tomorrow. I don't have the Zoom information.
On a Saturday?
No,
it's today. I'm sorry.
It's Labor Day weekend, man.
You know, I work every day, so hey. It's today. I don't have the Zoom information, but it should be.
Look across from you. She always is on you. You know the Zoom. Go ahead. You know it, Todd, but go ahead, finish.
But if you call City Hall, they should be able to give you that information, or the redevelopment department. They should get into the Zoom meeting so you can see what's happening with the golf course. But there are some important meetings that's coming up on this Tuesday via Zoom for the council. There's a lot of different legislation that's very important that's coming up. One that I'm very concerned about is the new one about the gas station with the 24, the armed security at the gas station. I'm very concerned about that. The CBA ordinance, the amendments that we're going to work through that. I'm just asking everyone to stay tuned because these are some very serious decisions that we're going to make.
So we're still into that CBA ordinance.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. All right.
The amendment did not get withdrawn from Mr. Lay. He tried to withdraw it and that didn't happen.
He's a smooth criminal, that guy. I love him. I love him.
But that failed.
All right. Take your victories when you can.
I have to with him.
All right, we go to Will. Yeah.
So let me just say thanks so much. This has been a spirited conversation. I always look forward to it. Tonight, everybody, the whole city is welcome to Lake Street. We're going to have a whole little party, socially distant.
First Friday.
Wear your mask. It's not technically First Friday, but there is the Nelson Audubon stage, the sound stage, which is right past Miller Pizza. It was really in between Thumbs Up and another building. There's a little stage there. There'll be live music starting at 5 p.m. There will also be bike rides. So we know we got the new bike lanes that have been completed. So you can ride from, I think, the bank area where Centauri is, all the way down to the lake and back. Mr. Tom Serra, one of our leading residents, is leading that. I want to thank Sue Rudson, who's leading the Soundstage Initiative. So there'll be a party tonight on Lake Street. Wear your mask. Be physically distant.
You ride your bike?
I don't know about that. Maybe before the Thumbs Up and other places that we might visit tonight. So just want to everybody continue to be safe. Have a good Labor Day weekend.
I appreciate you, Will. I appreciate you, Ronnie, and of course the lady of the hour. Thank you for being here, Ms. Atkins. Always good. And you've been.
Lady of the hour.
You gotta know how to gas her up. Go ahead, Ty. Thank you once again. No, I appreciate
thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure to see you and speak to
There
you
you
as
go.
well as to be here with my colleagues. I enjoy the lax time that we have, right, to kind of give some core thoughts.
Yeah.
So nothing's really going on as it relates. I do want to let the 4th District know we had a great summer, right? So even despite the COVID pandemic happening, we did still try to keep residents engaged. We had a couple of community initiatives. So what I like to do is every October, last year we did it, and so going forward, I like to have our last community meetings in October.
Yeah.
But in preparation for that, I do have a table talk session. So I have these table talks with Ties where people can come in and then we can prepare for what we're going to review for our community. So this table talk will take place on Monday, September the 21st. At 6 p.m.
Yeah.
We will have a virtual element as well as an element in person. And so I'll make sure that we get that information out for the link and then the location will be determined soon.
All right. Well, once again, happy Labor Day weekend to the three of you all.
Thank you.
Look forward to hopefully maybe we might run into each other, social distancing, of course.
Yeah.
But I always enjoy this, and I think once again the city and the residents enjoy it as well. Even people that are texting me from who are just listening to see what's going on here. With that being said, everybody, I'm gonna get out of here. I'll be back in a little less than an hour for the afternoon news desk with Jeffrey Smith. It's Free Fall Friday. You know what that means. All right. With that being said, everybody have a good one. We're out. Good one, ladies and fellas. It was.